The first time I couldn't rise onto my toes, I thought it was just fatigue. The second time, I blamed my worn-out point shoes. But by the third time, as pain shot through my joints like lightning, I knew something was terribly wrong. After 40 years of ballet, from performing with the American Ballet Theater to teaching generations of young dancers, my body was betraying me. The diagnosis came like a final curtain call I never wanted: rheumatoid arthritis. The doctor's words still echo in my mind. "Margaret, you might need to consider giving up dance altogether." I remember staring at my hands, once so graceful, now swollen and stiff, thinking, how could I possibly live without dance? I was 62 when arthritis crashed into my life like an unwelcome guest. For those who don't know me, I'm Margaret Chen, and ballet has been my identity since I was 5 years old. From the moment I first stepped into a dance studio in 1965, feeling the smooth wooden floor beneath my feet and watching my reflection in those enormous mirrors, I was home. The arthritis began slowly. Just some morning stiffness at first. Then pain when I demonstrated certain movements to my students. Eventually, I couldn't make it through a full class without needing to sit down. My joints felt like they were filled with broken glass. The day after my diagnosis, I sat in my empty studio before dawn. I'd always come early to practice alone, but that morning, I just sat on the floor, unable to will my body into the positions that had once been as natural as breathing. I cried that morning. Not delicate tears, but the kind that shake your whole body. The kind that acknowledge a profound loss. For 6 months, I barely danced at all. My medication made me nauseated and tired. My joints flared unpredictably. I started using a cane on bad days. Me, a ballerina, using a cane. It felt like some cruel cosmic joke. The depression that followed was as debilitating as the arthritis itself. When you've built your entire identity around your physical abilities, and then those abilities begin to disappear, well, you start to wonder who you are without them. The turning point came from an unexpected source, one of my oldest students, now in her 50s herself. Lily had studied with me since she was 12, and now brought her granddaughter to my studio. She caught me grimacing as I demonstrated a simple tendu. "Why are you still trying to dance like your 20-year-old self?" she asked bluntly after class. I was offended at first. "I'm not," I insisted. "Yes, you are," she said. "You're trying to force your body to move the way it used to, instead of discovering how it wants to move now." Her words stayed with me for days. Was I really trying to dance against my body rather than with it? Had I become so attached to what dance used to be that I couldn't see what it could still be? That weekend, I closed the blinds in my studio, turned off the mirrors, and just moved. No technique. No positions. Just listening to what my body could do without pain. It wasn't ballet as I'd known it, but it was still dance. And for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of joy return. Once I accepted that I needed to adapt, I became almost scientific about it. I started researching how dancers with injuries modified their technique. I consulted with physical therapists who specialized in working with dancers. I even reached out to some former colleagues who dealt with similar challenges. I learned that low-impact variations could replace jumps. That certain positions could be adjusted by just a few degrees to dramatically reduce joint stress. That props like chairs, bars, and resistance bands could support movements that my joints couldn't handle alone. I discovered that warm water exercises before dancing helped tremendously. 20 minutes in a warm bath or pool before attempting any dance movements reduced my pain by half. I developed a pre-dance ritual of gentle stretching and joint mobility exercises that prepared my body much better than my old warm-up routine ever had. Temperature made a huge difference too. I installed better heating in my studio and invested in specially designed warmers for my ankles, wrists, and knees. On particularly bad days, these warmers allowed me to move when I otherwise couldn't have. Most importantly, I learned to listen to the early warning signals from my body. In ballet, we're trained to push through pain, to see it as weakness leaving the body. But with arthritis, pain is information, valuable information that shouldn't be ignored. I had to unlearn decades of pushing through, and instead learn when to back off, modify, or rest. The physical adaptations were challenging, but honestly, the emotional journey was even harder. I had to grieve the loss of the dancer I once was before I could fully embrace the dancer I was becoming. I remember one afternoon, about a year after my diagnosis, watching old videos of myself performing. I'd avoided them until then, afraid they'd only deepen my sense of loss. As I watched my younger self leap across the stage in Don Quixote, I expected to feel bitter. Instead, I felt profoundly grateful. Grateful that I'd had those moments. Grateful that my body had given me decades of such joy before arthritis arrived. That shift in perspective, from resentment to gratitude, changed everything. I stopped seeing arthritis as the villain that stole my dance career and started seeing it as simply the next chapter in my dance journey. A challenging chapter, yes, but one that could still contain beauty and meaning. I also had to face my pride. For years, I'd been known as the ballerina who could still do 32 fouettes in her 60s. My technical prowess had become a point of pride, even vanity. Letting go of that identity was humbling. I had to find value in qualities beyond technical ability, in musicality, expressiveness, and the wisdom that comes from decades of dancing. About 2 years after my diagnosis, something unexpected happened. My adapted approach to dance wasn't just helping me, it was helping others too. Students with various physical limitations, not just arthritis but knee replacements, back issues, even multiple sclerosis, were finding that my modified techniques allowed them to experience dance when they thought those days were behind them. One student, a 73-year-old former runner with severe knee osteoarthritis, told me that my class was the only form of exercise that didn't leave her in pain for days afterward. Another, a 58-year-old with fibromyalgia, said dancing had improved her mobility more than any other therapy she'd tried. I began to formalize what I was teaching, creating a structured methodology that specifically addressed the needs of older bodies and those with mobility challenges. I called it Dance Fit Joy because that's exactly what it aimed to provide: fitness through dance that creates joy rather than pain. The core principles were simple. First, movement should never cause sharp pain. Discomfort is sometimes unavoidable, but actual pain is always a signal to modify or stop. Second, every movement can be adapted. There's no one right way to dance. There's only the way that works for your unique body on this unique day. Third, consistency matters more than intensity. 10 minutes of gentle movement daily does more for arthritic joints than an hour of intense exercise once a week. Fourth, joy is not Optional, it's medicinal. Moving in ways that bring emotional pleasure actually reduces pain perception and improves mobility outcomes. This isn't just my observation. Research backs this up. And finally, community heals. Dancing together creates social connections that fight depression and isolation, common challenges for those with chronic pain conditions. As Dance Fit Joy grew, I became increasingly interested in understanding exactly why dance was helping so many of us with arthritis. I partnered with a rheumatologist at the University Medical Center to document the effects we were seeing. What we learned fascinated me. Dance addresses arthritis on multiple levels simultaneously. The gentle, rhythmic movement increases synovial fluid production, which lubricates stiff joints. The weight-bearing aspects help maintain bone density, crucial for those of us at risk for osteoporosis. The balance components reduce fall risk, a serious concern for anyone with mobility issues. But perhaps most interesting was what dance does to our pain perception. When we dance, especially to music we enjoy, our brains release endorphins and dopamine, natural pain relievers and mood elevators. This doesn't just make us feel better emotionally, it actually changes how we physically experience pain. The cognitive aspects of dance, remembering sequences, responding to musical cues, coordinating with others, create what scientists call neuroplastic changes in the brain. In simpler terms, dance rewires our neural pathways, creating new connections that can actually help our brains process pain differently. One study we referenced showed that people with chronic pain who engaged in dance therapy twice weekly reported a 30% reduction in pain intensity after 3 months, comparable to some medication interventions, but without the side effects. I found it deeply validating that science confirmed what my body already knew. Dance wasn't just making me feel better temporarily. It was actually changing my relationship with pain on a fundamental level. As word spread about Dance Fit Joy, my small local classes grew. Soon I was training other teachers in the methodology, opening satellite locations, and eventually, with significant encouragement from my tech-savvy granddaughter, creating online versions of the program. The online transition wasn't easy for me. I'm from a generation that values in-person connection, and I worried that the essence of what made Dance Fit Joy special would be lost in digital translation. But necessity became the mother of invention when the pandemic hit in 2020, forcing our studios to close temporarily. Our first Zoom classes were awkward, with technical glitches and me constantly moving my camera to show different angles. But something beautiful emerged from that chaos. People from across the country, and eventually around the world, joined our virtual community. Participants from rural areas, who never had access to specialized arthritis-friendly dance classes, could suddenly join daily. People who were homebound due to severe mobility limitations could participate from their living rooms, often using chairs or countertops for support. One participant in rural Alaska wrote to me saying, "Before finding your online classes, I hadn't danced in 15 years. My arthritis convinced me those days were over. Now I dance every morning. My grandchildren have noticed I'm moving better, and my doctor is amazed at my improved range of motion." Another from a small town in Italy, a former professional dancer like myself, told me, "I thought arthritis had stolen dance from me forever. You've given it back, not exactly as it was, but in a form I can embrace with my current reality." These stories, they heal my own wounds. They remind me that what might have seemed like a devastating end to my dance career was actually the beginning of something even more meaningful. For those of you watching who are dealing with arthritis or other mobility challenges, I want to share some practical advice that has made the biggest difference in my daily life. Morning movement is non-negotiable. Even 5 minutes of gentle movement when you first wake up can set the tone for how your joints feel all day. I keep a resistance band by my bed and do simple stretches before my feet even touch the floor. Heat before, ice after. Before dancing or exercising, apply heat to stiff joints for 15-20 minutes. After activity, if you experience any inflammation, ice is your friend, but never for more than 20 minutes at a time. Invest in proper footwear. This made an enormous difference for me. Dance shoes with proper cushioning and support reduced my knee and ankle pain dramatically. Don't try to economize here. Your joints deserve the best protection you can give them. Modify without shame. In our classes, we celebrate modifications as signs of wisdom, not weakness. Listen to your body and adjust accordingly, whether that means using a chair for support, reducing your range of motion, or taking more frequent breaks. Consistency trumps perfection. On bad flare days, I might only do 5 minutes of the gentlest movements, but I still do something. This maintains the neural pathways and joint mobility better than skipping entirely and trying to make up for it later. Track your patterns. I keep a simple journal noting which movements cause discomfort, which times of day I have more stiffness, and how different factors like weather, stress, or diet affect my symptoms. These patterns help me create a dance practice that works with my body's needs rather than against them. Find your joy triggers. Different styles of dance or music might feel better for your particular arthritis pattern. For me, Baroque music paired with adapted ballet movements feels best for my joints. For others in our community, it might be gentle jazz, folk dance, or even adapted hip-hop. Experiment until you find what brings both physical ease and emotional joy. I'm 72 now, a decade into my journey with arthritis. When I was first diagnosed, I feared I'd be immobile by this age. Instead, I'm more active than many of my non-arthritic peers. Yes, I have limitations. Yes, there are movements I'll never do again. But dance remains central to my life, just in an evolved form. The arthritis hasn't gone away. I still have flares. I still take medication. But dance has given me back control in a situation where I initially felt powerless. It's given me tools to manage my symptoms, and just as importantly, to manage my relationship with those symptoms. What I've learned most profoundly is that aging with arthritis doesn't have to mean a diminished life. It can actually be an invitation to develop new skills, new perspectives, and new forms of resilience. My body has changed, but my capacity for joy through movement remains intact. I often tell my students that we're pioneering a new way of aging, one that doesn't accept the old narrative that our bodies inevitably betray us. Instead, we're writing a new story where we continue to dance with our changing bodies, adapting and evolving rather than surrendering. Last month, I performed a solo piece at our community showcase. It wasn't the technically dazzling choreography of my younger years. It contained no leaps, no multiple turns. But audience members told me afterward that it moved them to tears. One young dancer said, "I've never seen someone embody music that way." It wasn't about what your body could do, it was about what your spirit was saying through your body. That's the gift arthritis unwittingly gave me. It stripped away my reliance on technical virtuosity and forced me to develop the deeper, more subtle aspects of artistry that come from a lifetime of dancing. If you're watching this and arthritis or other joint problems have made you believe your dancing days are over, I hope my story offers a different possibility. Dance doesn't have to be what you see on competition shows or professional stages. It doesn't require perfect mobility or pain-free joints. Dance, at its essence, is simply the joy of moving to music in whatever way your unique body allows. Whether you're a former dancer mourning lost abilities or someone who's always wanted to dance but never thought you could, I invite you to join our Dance Fit Joy community. Our online classes welcome all bodies, all abilities, and all levels of experience. We have specific programs for those with arthritis, fibromyalgia, MS, and other mobility challenges. Visit DanceFitJoy.com to try a free introductory class and see if our approach might work for you. You'll also find resources there about arthritis-friendly movement, our special warm-up routines and stories from others in our community who have reclaimed mobility through dance. Remember, arthritis may limit certain movements, but it doesn't have to limit your joy in moving. As I tell my students, we don't dance despite our limitations, we dance with them, honoring what our bodies need today while celebrating what they can still do. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope to dance with you soon, each of us moving in our own perfect, imperfect way.